Used to pull down my sleeves, used to put makeup on, so everyone would think I'm fine and nothing's wrong. I buried all the pain, used to feel so ashamed of all the things I wrote about myself with razor blades. But I kept holding on until the final page. Survive the story cause the ending changes everything. And now I wear my scars just like tattoos, because I'm so damn proud of what they put me through. I learned without a doubt every mark that makes you feel worthless can give you a purpose. And now I wear my scars just like tattoos, 'cause I'm a miracle.
So let's just start this thing. I've never actually had an intro for the podcast, but Derek is a special case. Derek is somebody that I've known for how long? When were we at Ferris?
Oh my God. 14, 13 years?
A long time. A very long time. And the thing with Derek is I knew Derek when he was not Derek. Derek used to be a female. Or present as a female?
I used to be a female.
Yeah, used to be a female, all right. And so I wanted to get Derek on so we could have a conversation about a white man that is very uneducated in the LGBTQ plus community. And I need to know more about my friend and his transition and journey through the transition. So we were going to do this at another location and we scrambled together, got this. Hopefully it looks good. Hopefully you guys like it. We are on TikTok live. I don't even know if there's anybody watching right now, but we're here, we're doing it. And Derek, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
For driving all the way out here and getting this put together. We did a little some drag queen B-roll stuff last time we were together, and that was really fun. And so let's just jump right into it.
Okay.
I don't really want to beat around the bush with a lot of stuff. So when you were growing up, did you know that you weren't comfortable in your body, or kind of?
So when I was growing up, I always was like a tomboy, like always. And my mom just always let me be myself. Mm-hmm. The only time that I wasn't allowed to be myself was with my grandparents, and they'd always put me in dresses and shit. And it was just like irritating.
Yeah.
And it would make me cry. And I would just literally have the worst day ever. And they would put curlers in my hair and shit like that. And I fucking hated it. But so for my mom, she always let me be who I was. So I didn't really question it at the time. Like I was just like, oh, this is just me. You're like, whatever.
Right.
And I didn't know that transgender people existed. Like I had no idea. I knew that you could be gay or lesbian or like whatever. Because when I was in like kindergarten, I had my first crush on my female teacher. So I knew that like I was not the same as everybody else in that aspect, but I had no idea that I was trans.
Right.
I did not figure that out until I was 19 and in college at Ferris. I took a human sexuality class. I forget the professor's name. It's that really fucking old dude that was there forever.
No idea. Dude, most of my Ferris experience, like I told you, I remember like 15% of it.
Same.
Yeah,
lots of heavy drinking.
Lots of heavy drinking, lots of like mushrooms and acid. And yeah, I mean, we were working in a bar environment. Mm-hmm. So it was, get off at 2 and start partying until 6.
Yep.
And class was just really a second thought for everything else. Yep. So yeah. But all right, yeah, so you're coming up and you start to, I cannot think, I'm sorry. But your parents, are they supportive in you not wanting to wear these dresses and put the curlers on and everything?
My mom always let me have short hair. She always bought me boy clothes. She always bought me boy toys, like whatever in that aspect that I wanted, she would always do for me. So I'm very thankful for that because she just let me be myself.
Yeah. And
So-
then, and then you get to Ferris. You take this human sexuality class and you realize that there is another option. Mm-hmm. And what is that like?
My jaw dropped. Like, it hit the fucking desk because I was like, wow, my life makes a lot of sense now. Because, like, I've never been, like, I think a lot of people have body dysmorphia way worse than I do, or that I did, because I was always, like, I was uncomfortable with having a chest and things like that, but everything else I was fine with. But I didn't let it, like, ruin my life or change how I was going to live my life.
Right.
Because I want to be comfortable in my life. But my mom has always been very supportive. She's very supportive of me. And when I started transitioning, she was very supportive. And I mean, I couldn't ask for more, honestly.
We did. Oh, I got a chance to meet your sister. And that was weird for me because she looks exactly like you.
I think that he is a very courageous person, and he has always just wanted to be himself. When we were growing up, he was very much a tomboy, and he loved having his long hair, but he loved to run around in shorts with his shirt off. Like, he was just very much a little boy. That's how my mom describes him as well. When we were growing up, he was always very outgoing. In high school, he still was presenting as female, but he would still kind of be tomboyish. He had his hair really short, and he always wore polo shirts. Where we grew up, being gay or being trans was not something that people had ever even heard of, really. And so it was kind of a weird spot for him to, like, figure out about himself, and our family was very close-minded about everything. Our mom, however, Derek told her first that he was bi, and she was okay with that. She was accepting of it. He also told me right in the beginning, but I was young. I didn't understand what that meant. And then we went through college, and then when he got to Mount Pleasant, that is when he started his transition. So it was probably 4 or 5 years after we graduated high school, I think. I might have that wrong.
Right.
But, and he felt very tired of being not himself. Like, he knew who he was, but he didn't feel like he was himself as his outward expression to people. So he started transitioning, and that taught, I didn't know any trans people, so that taught me a lot about him as a person and about a whole other world community of people that I had never had contact with. And I was always, even in high school when he came out, I was always very proud of him because he was, like I said, he was always so courageous. And I was always the person where I was always in the background. I was always afraid. And so to see him who came from the same family upbringing but be so loud and proud of himself, it was always very inspiring. And I was always very proud of him for that. And then we went through the transition together, and it's still the same feeling. Like, every time he becomes more himself, I am inspired by him, and I'm still always proud of him. And because he is so okay with himself, it kind of helps me to, like, drop some walls. And, like, Derek has found a safe space for him to be himself, and that's very supportive of him. And like I said, growing up, we didn't always have that. So, and now that I'm also a part of the community, I've always still had my walls up, but seeing how much people love him and how not, it just has taught me that not everybody in the world is selfish and mean and out to hurt you, out to get you. Like, there's genuinely good people out there, and it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to drop the walls and let people see you, because there are people who will love you for it and who just love you in general. So I think that is the biggest reminder that he is for me always, just how he's been able to become himself. He's gone through all the hardships of it, waiting to get top surgery, and obviously not everybody is always accepting. There is ridicule and backlash. It doesn't have seemed to hold him down. I don't know if somewhere in the back of his mind, it bothers him, but he, in the moment, he never lets anybody get him down. And I forgot where I was going before I got to the point. So,
how does he inspire you? Or does he inspire you?
Yes, he does. And again, just like, he just inspires me to be myself, to take risks, to not always hide away, to allow people to get close to me, to make friends. Like, they seem little for some people, but just for me, the way that we grew up, neither one of us were really supported in even small things like making new friends, and because our family was so close-minded and we had people in and out of our life that were just downright mean to us. So I personally became very untrusting of everybody, and so, which just closed me down. But Derek, since he's become a part of this community, and since he's transitioned, he's so open, he's so loving with everybody, and everybody loves him back. So that has inspired me to, like I said, just kind of drop my walls a little bit, and not be so on guard with every person, which has been good. Obviously, I'm a human. I need good relationships, right? But he's also through the transition, he's become a much deeper person. He's much more understanding. He's much more patient. He's much more compassionate towards people. We haven't talked about it, so I don't know why, but it is something I noticed, that he's just calmed down. He gives people more grace, and
I think he allows you to mess up a little bit.
Yeah, and same with other people. Everybody goes through their days, when they're bad. And, he's just able to, see people and know that they're going through something, and kind of, whatever, let them have their space and let them make a mistake or that type of thing, That's something that I've noticed about him as we've grown as adults together. I don't know. I do think it had something to do with the transition, because I think before he transitioned, he never felt comfortable inside himself, and there was this internal war that was happening, which kind of came out as a little volcano towards other people, because he wasn't at peace with himself. Now he is, and it's almost like he can be, because he is at peace, he can be more peaceful with other people as well.
Yeah, he said something earlier that we were talking about the pronouns, and he was like, I don't understand why it's that important when we're all just people, and so I had never looked at it that way, of just having a conversation with a human instead of a woman or a male or whatever, to just, who gives a shit, just have a conversation with a human. So
exactly.
That's something I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's true, because as soon as you start putting labels on somebody, then it changes the way that people interact with them and how they perceive them, all that sort of stuff. Like I get treated differently as a female DJ than I do when people assume I'm a male DJ. The way they talk to me is different. The way I'm allowed to talk to them, I'm allowed to be assertive. I'm allowed to set boundaries, and it's okay. But as soon as they find out that I'm a woman, then it's, you know, push these little boundaries and, oh, you can just do this, can't you? And it just, I don't know why it makes a difference. I'm still the same person.
It does though. You're not wrong. Yeah.
I know I'm not going to. I just went through it. Like,
A chance to like talk, and she was telling me that everybody in your family seemed to be very accepting, and open
for the
towards
most part,
everything. Yeah, and that's not normally the case.
No, I'm very fortunate.
Yeah, I haven't known too many, but I've known two people in particular that they had to hide from their parents who they were and everything. And having that support system behind you, did that allow you to kind of make the transition faster?
Absolutely, because if you're hiding something, you don't want to go through with it, because it's like, if I were hiding that I'm trans, how am I going to start my transition without people noticing? They're going to notice the hair, they're going to notice my voice, they're going to notice all of these things. So if it's really bothering me that much that these people would know, I would never follow through with it. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that I did have that support system, it made it happen that much quicker. I was on the phone calling doctors, doing this, doing that. The only thing that did stop me though was because I found out that I was trans when I was 19, and I never transitioned until I was 24.
Okay.
So that's 5 years.
Yeah.
Because I was at the time dating this girl, and she told me that she was a lesbian and she does not date men. So if I wanted to transition, then we were going to break up. And at the time, it was my first like true love.
Right.
So I was.
Did you work at the gate then?
No.
Okay.
This was maybe, I don't remember.
Yeah. No. Gotcha.
But she said flat out, like, I'm not going to be with you. And so I was like, okay, well, I won't transition. And then I just kind of put it on the back burner for a while. But then the older I got, the more, since I had that knowledge and that information of who I was truly, the more time went on, the angrier I became being a woman.
Was it anger or like resentment?
Both.
And who was it aimed at?
Myself.
So
Because I let some bitch.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was trying to get to that, yeah.
Like, I let someone make my choice for me just because they were uncomfortable. And that's not like, at a certain point, I was just like, I had it. I have to do this now. Because it was getting to the point where like my drinking was out of control, my drug use was out of control, and I was a very angry, mean drunk because I was dealing with so much turmoil inside and dealing with my identity.
Yeah. No, I can relate to it a lot. When we like met, I was drinking a shit ton.
So was I. Remember, I got fired for drinking underage at that fucking go-go party.
I would rack up a bar bill for like $100 every single night because you never had to pay for it. It came out of your check or whatever, you know. And then so it was an environment that definitely allowed me to be an amazing alcoholic. But I sold my car for 2 mopeds and threw a huge party, and I mean it's a huge blur. So it's just one of those times to where it's like you got to figure it out. Like your 20s, I feel like, is where you figure it out. Your 30s is like action, you know, getting everything trying to set up, and through your 40s is you can enjoy all the work that you've put in.
Yes.
Do you feel that you were rushed in doing that work, and are you finished with doing all of the work in your transitioning process?
No, I don't think I was rushed. I think it happened at the right time for me because I think if I would have done it earlier, I wouldn't have appreciated it as much.
So let's just start with the actual transition process, because I have no idea what's that even like. Do you call up your doctor and be like, hey, I'm a man now, you know, and kind of walk me through what even happens?
So a lot of doctors require, like, you have to go to therapy and talk to a therapist about it. So a lot of doctors require a therapist note saying like, hey, this person is trans and I am for them starting hormone replacement therapy.
Right.
If that's whatever that person chooses, because a lot of people don't do that.
And that's what you decided you wanted to do, is hormones?
Yeah.
Okay.
But So I actually got lucky enough to find a doctor that I didn't need a note for, because she was just like, okay, like was her first patient that was trans, and she was like, I want to do this with you because I've never done it and it's something that I want to get into. So I was like her guinea pig.
That's perfect though.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
So I didn't need a note, and I actually, because I was going through the process of getting notes and things like that, but I wasn't finding a good therapist. The one that I found, she talked about herself the whole time, and I'm like, bitch, I'm not here to talk about you. I am paying you
Yeah.
to talk about me so I can get this going.
Yeah.
So, but she put me on hormones. So I take 200 milligrams. So 1 milliliter
Right.
of 200 milligrams of testosterone every 12 days.
Okay. And was that what you started on?
I've been on the same.
Just the same dose for the whole time?
Yep.
All right.
Because what it does is it's hormone replacement therapy. So my testosterone, if yours is within normal range, matches yours.
Right.
And the estrogen is non-existent.
Okay.
So it's not like, I know some people think that like people who take testosterone, and if they were, previously female, they have some sort of advantage. It's not. It's a replacement. It's taking away. So I'm not I'm not on steroids or anything like that.
Right, yeah.
I'm just literally maintaining
Your
my
baseline.
hormones.
Right.
Yeah, baseline.
And-
so if I did decide that, because I do like working out and things like that.
Yeah.
If I did decide to start upping it and taking it like a lot of other people do, I would have the same problems as a lot of guys do with the back acne, the anger, all the things, because it's increasing it to an unsafe level.
Okay. And so when you start this process, it's not cheap. Like the country we live in, medical stuff is not cheap. Is that covered through
No.
traditional insurance?
No. So back when I started, it was not covered at all. But luckily for me, testosterone is not that expensive. It's not. For some people it is. I don't know everybody's financial status. So
Yeah,
for
yeah.
some people it is undoable.
Yeah.
But for me it was doable. And it was like, I don't know, $30-$40 a month
Yeah,
or
it's
something
not
like
that
that.
bad at all.
It's not that bad. And I understand that some people can't afford that, and that's
Right.
okay. But yeah, and that's about what I pay now. It's like 90. I think it's like 90 for 3 months.
Okay.
So that's like $30 a month.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. So when you're going through this process and you're starting everything, what's going through your head? So, I mean, like, are you...
Excitement.
Because I guess for me, it's trying to think about changing who you are while also trying to figure out who you are at the same time, kind of.
Yeah.
And so,
Because I think I had to change who I was to truly figure out who I was.
do you know who you are now?
No, I don't think that's like, I don't think that there's ever a definitive. I think we're always growing and learning.
Yeah. No, I like that answer. When I was in rehab, I was asked, "Who are you?" And it's it's still fucking with me because I was like, I don't know, and I was looked down on for not knowing this basic answer. And I was like, look, like I'm just starting to smell things again, and you're wanting to know who I am as a person, like I've been drowning my feelings in alcohol and painkillers forever. I don't know who the fuck I am.
Right.
And so like I can only imagine for you getting this book and it's like, nope, bam, there's another option. And then you're starting through this process and then now you're getting onto the hormones and you've had the therapy, you've talked to your family and everything, but what's going through your head?
Mostly excitement and relief.
Okay.
Like, because like when you come out as gay or you come out as trans, like a lot of people psych themselves out for the worst case scenario.
Yes.
So when I told my mom that I was a lesbian originally, she was like, yeah, I knew. But in my mind, it was going to be some big fucking deal. And then same thing for when I was trans, but it was never a big deal. So I think that helped me and like with the relief because it was just like, okay, this is out. It's out in the open.
Yeah.
I can continue to do what makes me happy because at the end of the day, that is what matters. And so it was just like a sigh of relief mostly. And I was excited to start the process to this.
Yeah. So I feel like for me, this has been difficult because first I didn't know really what to ask, how deep we could go. I feel like we've kind of just like scratched the surface to start. But there's a lot of things that I feel like in the time that we live in now, asking any sort of like question that has to do with the trans culture there's pushback. It's this whole we don't want to talk about a thing from my perspective and mine only. That's how I feel about it. So it's just been like I've never really known how to approach this. So I guess my first big question is, do you consider yourself a man?
Yeah.
Okay. The reason why I asked that is because I've gone like up and down with this. Like I'm 38 years old now. Like I'm old as shit. When I was in my 20s, I had only heard of people being called like trannies or transsexuals, or like you've heard all these things.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's derogatory to say. That's how far removed I am. And so can you kind of walk me through the basis or the basics, like, because I don't know that that's not okay to say. Why is transsexual a bad?
Because it's outdated. It's an outdated term.
Okay.
That some people still do identify as transsexual. Like, it's like, it kind of just depends on the generation that you come from, because the older generation of trans people, that's their verbiage. Right. Transsexual. Transgender is the new, not new, but newer.
Right. Yeah.
So, but tranny, offensive.
Yeah, it sounds offensive.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah.
I can say it, you can't say it.
Yeah, that's the like part of this whole thing though, is it seems like that it is a subculture. So you have the LGBTQ plus community. I just found out that what the Q was is that you could just be questioning whether or not, and then you can identify as that. And so for me, I am the dumbest group of humanity, being I have to claim my white portion of my life in this part, but I am a white man who's uneducated in this and has said stupid things towards this culture. And so when you have this, I don't know, culture movement, I guess I don't know the proper verbiage for everything, but how do you start to have this conversation with uncomfortable questions and not really knowing?
I think where the reservations come from some trans people in having that conversation is that they are overtly sexualized. So everything comes back to our genitals or things like that, or did we have the surgery, or really invasive questions. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't come up to you and be like, what does your dick look like? Do you have one? You know what I mean? Like, that's just rude. Yeah. Like, it was really weird. The other day, I like, at my work, I work at a gay bar. Our bathrooms are, use whatever one you want.
Yeah, I think they say stalls and urinals.
Yep. One says stalls and urinal, and the other one says stalls.
Yep.
So they're for everybody. You choose whatever one you want. But I walked into one of the bathrooms minus the urinal, and this girl just looked at me. She's like, "Are you trans?" And I'm like, "From what? Why are you asking me this from me walking into a bathroom?" And I'm just like, "Bitch, leave me alone."
Yeah, that is a big part of it though, is
curiosity is what kills a lot of people, because they're curious about the wrong things, because those things don't matter. It doesn't matter what's between my legs. It doesn't make me a person. It doesn't make me a better or a worse person or anything like that.
So let's just start here. What are good questions?
Good questions are like, how do you feel after your transition? How was your transition for you? Did you have any difficulties with your transition? What were some positives? Things like that. It's just like, you just want to stay away from body parts.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. You want to stay away from body parts, because at the end of the day, the only person's business it is a person who's between your legs.
Yeah. So for you, going through this transition and dealing with the ignorant people that surround everything, and I can only imagine the stress that you've had with that. I've also learned from one of my friends who's a sex worker that you're never supposed to ask the worst thing that's happened to you. It's called trauma porn.
Yeah.
Do you get attacked with those style questions of what's the worst thing somebody said to you? Because as kind of like sitting over here, I love you as a friend, and I'm afraid of offending you.
I'm not gonna get offended. I'll tell you that you're being dumb.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm always dumb, yeah. But yeah, so it's kind of just like, it seems like from the outside perspective, it's hard to be engaged in this conversation. Do you feel like there is some intended pushback?
For some people, because a lot of times, like, trans people are few and far between. So when a lot of people meet you, everybody has questions. Literally everybody. So sometimes I'm just fucking sick of it. You know what I mean? I don't want to be this person. Like, I love answering questions, and I try to do my best to do so, because I really believe that educating people is like the way to end hate. So I try my best to always answer questions. But sometimes it does get overwhelming because people are just being so intrusive in your life.
Yeah. Do you feel
And questions that I would never ask you. You know what I mean?
like can I see your dick?
Yeah, things like that.
Yeah.
Did you have the surgery? None of your business.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just pure curiosity, and I also think that it's ignorance on not knowing what to ask. You know,
True.
it's trying to, like, when you start a new job, you'll, hey, what do you do for, you know, when you're out of work, to try to come up with some common ground to have a conversation with. And I think that that's some of like the biggest pushback, not pushback, but like where my own personal experience questioned a lot of things, I guess. And so when I asked, like, do you consider yourself a man? I feel like, so growing up, the worst thing that happens to a little boy is when it's like 5 minutes to get out of the pool and your dick's hard for no fucking reason other than it's 5 minutes to get out of the pool and you've been like staring at girls in bikinis, you know, and like they're all in your school. It's just what happens. Every guy has to experience that. Those little experiences that happen to you as like a little boy, do you feel like you missed out on those, or you just kind of take the experiences you have and put it in your suitcase and travel along with it?
Put it in my suitcase. Because I believe that being born a woman has made me a better man.
How so?
I'm more empathetic.
Okay.
All the qualities that women have that men don't have, I have them. Because I grew up as a woman, and I see the world through women's eyes. So like, I like used to get treated like shit for being a woman by men and things like that. So it's just like, I take all of that and remember how to be a better man. Never be the man that takes a woman's word for less just because she's a woman. Things like that. Like, it just makes me a better person, and I don't miss out. I don't feel like I really am missing out on getting a boner. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's just not. Sure, it would be cool if I had a penis, but like.
Well, I can tell you
not.
right now that if someone, the reason why somebody's asking you, especially an ignorant guy, is did you have the surgery? Do you have a penis? It's because the basic question, old as the chicken versus an egg, is whose orgasm is better. I think that's kind of like what everybody wants to know, you know, is getting towards that. But that's just like a stupid, childish like thing. But people don't know what to say, you know?
I mean, it's not like you're not talking to some fucking alien. You're talking to another human being.
Right.
You know what I mean? Ask generic questions that you would ask somebody else. The thing that puts people off is that you're asking very specific questions that are intrusive. So if you just talk to me like a normal human being, I'm more likely to open up to you and share my experiences if you treat me like another human being.
Yeah. I wish more people did that, but our society is kind of fucked right now.
Very.
Yeah. So you're going through this transition. Let's kind of back up towards that. And do you feel like you were overly supported to where every decision you made, you never had to do it alone? Or has there ever been a point where you felt alone in the process?
I've always been alone. Like, I have my mother. Well, I can't say I've always been alone because I've always had my sister. But as far as parental figures go, I've always been alone. My mom was not present when I was a kid.
Okay.
I was in and out of foster care. So I've only ever had myself to rely on. So yes, the support from my family was great, but I was going to do it regardless.
Okay.
And because I had gotten to that breaking point where it was my life over the happiness of other people. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to choose my life.
What's that feeling like? So for me, I feel like So I don't have like a gender identity issue. I have just a general identity issues. I'm still trying to figure out who I am. I've been a very aggressive man. I've been a very soft man at times. I've been a dick. I've tried to help people out, start charities. You know, I've done all these things, and I'm still trying to figure it out. When you finally get it figured out, or do you? Yeah, I don't know. I guess
That's just
can you
a
kind
small
of
piece of
expand
the
on
puzzle. Like my transition is just a small piece of my puzzle, my life puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't. Sorry, what was the question one more time?
that? I don't know. I kind of spaced out there a little bit. I was hoping you'd just expand on it.
Fuck.
This is what weed does to your brain, guys. No, it does. I don't know. Let me try to reframe.
Okay, I got it. So I just think that my transition is a small piece of my puzzle because, like, no matter if I, like, to me right now in this instance, I've been transitioning for 8 years and I'm complete in my transition.
Okay.
So, but I still have all of this room to grow and learn as a man. So I don't think that, like, the fact that you don't know who you are, not a big deal.
Right.
Because we're still learning. Everybody's still learning. You're learning till the day that you fucking die.
Unfortunately, that's 100% the case. I'm trying to figure out, the TikTok thing, I don't even know. TikTok's weird. So I'm trying to figure out where to go from here because the transition isn't the focal point of this. It's you as a person. And I want to get more insight as to kind of like going through the process, but having the process be a secondary thought. It's what is it like growing up and having to go through that transition, I guess, of like deciding that you're going to start the hormones, but not having top surgery.
Well, at the time, that wasn't financially feasible for me. Because that's very expensive and at the time was not covered by insurance.
Is it covered now? Mm-hmm. Okay.
So actually really cool. My ex-wife worked for Starbucks and they have incredible insurance for trans and LGBT people. And I went to, because like plastic surgeons, it's around $8,000 to $9,000 for them to do it. But if you go to a hospital, it's like $36,000. So my surgery was $36,000, but my insurance covered $30,000 of it.
Oh, that's
so
amazing.
I had to come up with the $6,500,
Right.
which I had a benefit for, and I raised all the money that I needed, which was like the most beautiful night of the ever.
I feel
It was
like
so much fun.
it just seems like you've had everything kind of like set up for success for you to go through this entire transition.
I am very, very lucky. Like, someone loves me. Honestly, they really do.
A lot of people love you, it sounds like.
No, and they do. They really do. But I mean, I just know, like, I'm not religious or anything like that, but I know somebody is watching out for me because my life has been, I haven't had a lot of negative experiences with being gay or being trans, like being called a tranny, or sometimes when I go to work and make up, a guy walking down the street will call me a faggot, but it's just like,
that word still exists?
oh yeah, all the time. And in the gay bar, people say it, and I'm like, do you know where you are? Like, hello?
Yeah.
So, like, it happened to me my last show. I was walking down the street, like, literally walking into the gay bar, and this older guy walked by me and yelled faggot, and I was just like, ugh.
So how do you view that coming from the woman's perspective, the man's perspective? Are you able to drop that, or do you hold on to that?
I just drop it.
Yeah.
He's uncomfortable. Let him be uncomfortable. It's not my problem.
And what makes you comfortable?
Happiness. Being who I am.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into more about you, because the transition thing, like I said, it's like a secondary type thing, but I'm trying to figure out how to word this exactly. Do you feel like you've been at a disadvantage in any area of your life because of the transition? So I know, like, right now you're working at Soho, which, by the way, that's an amazing space. Love that bar. I was really hoping we could shoot there today, but didn't happen, which is a good thing for business. So it means you're obviously accepted in the community and good things are going on. Are you afraid of leaving that environment and going into another place?
No. because I am very fortunate to look the way I do. I don't have, nobody bothers me. You know what I mean? Like, I've never had a problem getting a job. I've never had issues with that. I've always just like I said, somebody fucking loves me because everywhere I've worked, I've been accepted, whether it was as a lesbian or as trans. So I never had a place that I was like, ooh, I gotta quit. I gotta get out of here. They're not treating me right. You know what I mean? Like, obviously I have quit places, but it wasn't because of my personal issues. It was because the job fucking sucked.
Yeah. So let's get more into your actual personal life. So you grew up, it sounds like you did not have the greatest childhood. What is that like coming up through foster care while also not knowing, that you're a man and like wanting to wear certain things, wanting to present certain ways? And
I think honestly, the hardest part was my grandparents. It was my grandparents, because they always put me in girl shit. They always bought me girl shit. Like, it was never like they were just forcing it on me. When if you would just look and like take a second, you would see that these things don't interest me. Like, I have no interest in Barbie dolls. I want to play with a fucking G.I. Joe in a race car. Like, I don't want to wear a dress. I want to wear shorts and a t-shirt. So, and I was very lucky. So my biological mother was very supportive of my style choices, but my foster parents also were very supportive of my style choices and always let me wear boy clothes and do all that. And like, when we did chores, because there were 6 of us kids total in the house, and it was me and my biological sister and then their 4 kids in the house. So there were 3 boys and 3 girls at the time. But my parents would let me go do the boy chores. You know what I mean? Like the yard work, things like that. I didn't
take out the trash.
Take out the trash, help dad fix the car.
Gotcha.
Things like that.
Right.
I never had to clean the inside of the house or make dinner or help with dinner or do things like that. It was always boy chores. So they just let me be myself. And that's like one of the best things I could have ever asked for, because it's like, I think it made me more comfortable to just be who I was and to put my foot down and say, okay, it's time for me to transition, because it's for me and I always have put myself first.
Do you still have a good relationship with your foster care family?
Yeah, I talk to them not as much as I should, but they're wonderful. I went to my sister's wedding like last summer, the summer before, and it was really great to see them, like my extended family from my foster family, all very supportive, all very respectful, like no problems.
Yeah.
Nothing.
See, this is very different for me in like this show that I've created, because most people have like speed bump. As towards like you have had hard work, but you've had a lot of support in doing it. And the best thing is you're grateful about it.
Absolutely.
And
as you should be, because I would not be in this situation or in these circumstances or in this place in my life without those people. Who even knows if we would be sitting here having this conversation?
Right. Do you feel like you've always been grateful, like, for where you've been? Or has there ever been
because I had it pretty fucking bad. So I had it bad as a kid. I had it bad as an adult because I was a fucking crackhead. I loved cocaine. So I had it bad. I didn't pay my bills. I almost was homeless in Detroit. So when good things happen and I have good people surrounding me, I'm very grateful, because I have been at the lowest of the lows in my adult life and in my childhood.
So let's talk about that, because I feel like we both kind of have. If I say I'm in a dark place right now, you know where I'm at. Like, you know the directions of how to get to that dark place. It's getting out that is the hard part. So when you were in this dark place, where are you at? Like, you're going through like coke, because coke is a hell of a drug. And where are you at in your transition?
So I started doing coke like right when I started transitioning, maybe like like a month after.
Really?
Yeah, like, because the first time I ever did cocaine was around Christmas time in like 2014. It might have been 2015. So I was like either 24 or 25.
Okay.
But I did start my transition November 11th, 2014. But so it was around there or a year later. So I was a fucking mess throughout my transition. Luckily, I still maintained my medicine and took my hormones the way I was supposed to and did all of that. I didn't fuck around with that. Even
Right.
though I was fucking around with everything else in my life, that was the one thing that I took seriously because that was the one thing that mattered the most to me. But when you're early in your transition, that's when you have the hardest time. For me, that's when I had the hardest
So
time.
let's pinpoint and talk about that. What is the hardest time?
People don't
What is
respect
that?
you.
Okay.
They don't see, like, when I was early in my transition, people would not see me as a man. They would, like, I got into a bar fight because somebody was very disrespectful to me and, like, called me a bitch and was like, oh, your name's Derek? Yeah, right. Like, you know what I mean? Just being a...
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I got into a huge fucking bar fight because of it. And that was like, I've been spit at before. Yeah. Somebody called me a transsexual recently at my bar because they
At your bar?
because they were upset that they got kicked out. So they called me a transsexual. Recently, like 2 years ago, somebody called me a dyke because they knew that I was female before. Mostly it's just names. And like, I grew up the poor kid.
Yeah.
Like, I get called names all
Ramen
the
isn't
time.
really that bad.
No.
It's really not. And the hot dogs with the cheese in the middle, those are the good ones.
I liked baked beans and hot dogs.
Okay.
That's what my fucking shit was.
Baked beans and hot dogs, that's fair. All right. So besides the baked beans and hot dogs, I'm gonna end up cutting a lot of these there's just so many different areas of like things to ask, but I'm not quite sure where to go. Like, how do you get out of that dark space? I think because so from my perspective, it sounds like you're trying to figure out who you are, and then the drugs are brought in.
Drugs are brought in, and I'm having a hard time with my transition because people aren't respecting me. Or people would call me she all the time still, or call me my birth name.
So do you feel like you used drugs because of...
Yeah,
Okay.
It was a fucking mess. Like, I was really upset, and like, you know how you self-medicate. So, like, and then by the time I was like in my transition where people were respecting me, I was fucking addicted. So, like, regardless of if I was happy or not, I was addicted to the shit, so I was still using it.
So let's talk about that addiction. How much were you using a day?
Depends.
Okay, like what's a big day? Like
I
8
would
ball?
do an 8 ball,
Okay. That's
which is 3.5 grams for me.
it really is. Depending on what city you're in, it might be like 3 grams too. But yeah, so you're going through this transition. You're using up to an 8 ball a day. How do you stop? Because how do you even figure out who you are to want to get off of the easy path? Because the drugs give you like an easy way out of having to think about what's going on. Now you got to sit in your shit and figure it out because you're sober now. And so how do you get out of that dark place to realize that that's the change you need to make?
I was almost homeless in Detroit.
Let's talk about that.
So I was down here and I was just like using drugs all the time, like not paying my bills. Me and my ex split up, so I had to move into my sister's house with her boyfriend. He was a really bad alcoholic. So you had an alcoholic and a cokehead cohabitating with my poor sister. And it was
girl.
like, yeah, it was not cute for her. I still feel
Yeah.
really bad about it to this day. And then they ended up kicking me out because I wasn't paying my bills.
So the sister that I met? Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I wasn't paying my bills, so they were like, you can't fucking live here anymore, you know what I mean? And there was one time I went through, because I thought I was being so sneaky and hiding my Coke bags somewhere, because I didn't want to put them in the trash for everyone to see. So I hid them. One day I went and counted how much I had back there, $3,000, and it was only within like months.
Where are you getting all this money from?
I opened Anti-Hero in Ferndale. I was one of the, like, when they first opened, I was one of the first servers that they brought in.
Okay.
And when they opened, baller money. I would walk out of there with like $500 in a night.
Oh, okay.
Like $400 or $500.
Right.
So, but I was spending it all on drugs. Like, if I would have put money away in that first year, who fucking knows?
Yeah.
But I just blew it all on drugs. And so then, luckily, my mom was living in Howard City at the time. And so luckily she moved down here, got a place down here so that I could move in with her and have a place to live, because otherwise I had nowhere to go.
So you just moved straight in? Did you think about having to go to like a rehab or anything like that?
So I never wanted to do outpatient rehab because I don't like the feeling of being trapped.
Physically?
I mean, like inpatient is what I meant.
Oh, okay.
I don't like the feeling of being stuck somewhere. Like when I want to leave, I want to leave.
Yeah.
And you can't leave rehab.
Yeah, no.
So I did an outpatient rehab, but they wanted me to stop smoking weed, and I told them no, because I don't think that I could have gotten sober without smoking weed.
Okay. No,
Because-
that's a pretty common thing. I've actually had a guy on the show. His name was JD, and he started a recovery center down in Pennsylvania, and he does RSO tabs.
Oh, nice.
Every single day. That's kind of like what his like version of methadone almost, and because he was pretty bad, and so he just does the RSO. And they tried to have people coming in. The recovery center eventually failed during COVID, but yeah, I've heard a lot of people call it Cali sober.
Yep, California sober.
Yep, Cali sober. So yeah, it's. Do you feel like you can call yourself sober, or do you have to throw that in there?
To some people, I'm not sober because I smoke weed. But I think that with the legalization of weed and things like that, more people are coming around to it. Like, it's a drug, but it's not coke, it's not meth, it's not heroin. It's a fucking plant.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like the stigma is dropping from weed. So I think that the stigma of like saying you're sober but still smoking weed, I think is dropping as well.
Yeah.
But if somebody does say to me like, "Oh, you're not sober," I'm like, "Okay, bitch, then I'm Cali sober."
Yeah.
So it's just like,
It seems like you walk around with a lot of name tags. How does that feel?
they're just labels. It's whatever.
Because in talking to you, I remember during your, I don't know if it was your last drag show, but the one that I went to, we're sitting in your room kind of filming some stuff, and you had a very big, you didn't want to talk about genitals because it didn't matter. You just wanted to talk as a human to human, so no labels. That seems to be your biggest thing. How do you get to that point with new people that do have questions?
What do you mean?
Like, do you feel like it's hard to create solid relationships with being transsexual or transgender? I
No.
think, yeah. Yeah, I said that correctly.
Transgender, yes.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's hard. I think, because I think if you put everything aside and just get to know somebody for a person, that whatever is going on with them is null and void. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. And I feel like a lot of this is also stuff that you're going through now. And you're kind of trying to figure out now, and every day you're learning something new, especially being sober.
Yeah.
That's a big thing that happens. I myself feel like I'm sober. I have to smoke weed, otherwise I'm just severely nauseous from all the medication that I have to take from cancer and everything. So I say I'm sober. Some people, have their viewpoints on it or whatever.
Everybody has an opinion.
Yes.
So fuck them. You know what?
everybody
Like,
does have
because
an
everybody has an opinion. And if it doesn't align with yours, like, it doesn't make them right. It doesn't make you right. It's just a difference of opinions.
So let me just ask you the question that I don't know how to answer is, who are you?
Don't know. am a brother, I'm a son, I'm a friend, I'm a bartender, I'm a show director. I have many hats that I wear, and I think that that's true for a lot of people. And all of those things collectively they define who I am, but it's not all that I am. Because there's so many facets to each individual that creates who they are. So,
Do you feel like your identity makes up a big portion of who you are?
absolutely. Because if you're happy in your identity, you're happier in other aspects of your life. Because if you're in constant turmoil because you're unhappy with yourself, it's going to affect everything else. Because you're going to perpetually be pissed or upset or in a dark place. And that just makes functioning as a human harder.
Yeah. So I just thought of something that it's controversial for you and only you because it's your marriage and your divorce and everything. And I remember seeing, following you on social media and seeing like your progress and transition, and then seeing like first date pics or, whatever, and like being really stoked for you. You found somebody. Then I remember seeing the wedding pictures and being like, oh, that's awesome. And then we hang out after all these years and I find out that that's not a thing anymore. And going back to the are you a man question, men get crushed in relationships. I feel like women have the ability to crush a man, put you down to your knees, send you to rehab type shit, to whereas like the woman can kind of just like, it seems like they can just walk away and kind of go through that. I mean, they're better at hiding it. I feel like. So kind of what's your take on that in connection with your experience in a relationship and going through the breakup and everything?
I don't know that one person is better than hiding it as the other, because I think that my ex-wife and I both sensed that it wasn't working, but we just didn't know how to go about it because we had just got married, So I love her very much, but it just was not working for us to be married. We're good friends and I still talk to her every day, but the marriage just wasn't working for us. I was unhappy, she was unhappy. It was just like time for it to be over.
So why did you get married to begin with? You don't seem like the traditional dude. Nothing about you is traditional. Why would you want that? Because I
want a family and I want things like that. Like I would love to be a dad. And I think that growing up as a female, I think that because you're supposed to find like your forever person and get married and do all that and whatever. So I think that kind of like stuck with me in the back of my head that I should get married and do all this and do all that. So I think that played a part in it. But in my marriage, I learned that I'm not a monogamous person. And that wasn't working for us. So
you're a cheater?
No, we were in an open relationship.
Oh, okay.
But I have cheated, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were in an open relationship, but there were times that I wasn't completely honest with everything. But it was selfish of me because it was to spare her feelings instead of just being honest.
It doesn't seem like something you would normally do, though. You've been pretty blunt and forward with me. Were you trying to protect her for something?
Yeah. Because I love her with all my heart and I want her to be happy and that's all I wanted to do for her, but I couldn't do it. So I felt like shit about it.
Yeah, no, I get that. Is it still something that you want? The whole, like the wedding, the kids,
Yeah.
You still want
I don't know necessarily about a wedding per se. I don't know. I don't need to do that again anytime soon. But I do want children. And if I don't find a partner soon that wants to have children, well, soon-ish, because you can't rush things, I'm just going to do it by myself.
So how do you do that?
I have to get off my hormones. until I get my period back. So then I would get my period back, my uterus and all of the shit will be like functioning again. Cause right now it's just basically laying dormant. It's I'm not ovulating. I'm not doing any of that. But so once I get my period back and I am ovulating regularly, I can try to get pregnant.
So you're going to hold the baby. What the, okay. That seems like something that I would see like as like a big headliner, you know, like man is pregnant with baby.
Thomas Beatty was the first not international, but national case or like story.
Yeah.
That I think Time magazine did a story on him and his family, but he was like the first very publicly out trans man that was pregnant. And I remember seeing that in the paper and it was very cool.
So I can definitely see where some people would say that you either know exactly who you are and you don't give a fuck about everybody else, or you're crazy. What would you say to that?
Everybody's fucking crazy.
I love it.
Everybody is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
In their own special fucked up way.
There's a part of me that's jealous of what you have because you don't conform.
Why would you?
I don't know. For me, I feel like if on Monday I show up to work and I'm a dick, right? Then Tuesday when I show up to work, I have to be the same person that I was the day before because that's what you expect out of me. But I have to change it a little bit. And so the people that I've worked with, specifically one of my buddies, Jose, I worked with him and we butted heads at first, and it was all me. I came in with like this aggressive energy, you know, like, and it didn't work, you know. And so like eventually I had to back off, and then our relationship kind of became a lot better. And so now he's one of my better friends, which is amazing. I'm not really sure where I was going with that, but with that, did you bring with you friends from before transition and to now? Do you have like that same encompassing circle?
No. My circle is forever changing. I've gone like everywhere, like when I was in Mount Pleasant, so I moved to Mount Pleasant after I was in Big Rapids, and I worked at Mountain Town Station, which is like a brewery, steakhouse type deal thing. And it was when I started that job, I had already come out as trans, but I was not sure how they would feel about it. So I did put like my birth name and like I had my name tag with my birth name on it and everything. But then I was just like, but everybody was calling me Derek because I had already changed. Like my name's not legally changed, but I had already made the decision that I am Derek. I'm going to be going by Derek now. Right. But my name tag did not say that. And so I was like, I can't fucking do this. So I went downstairs to my boss and I was like, no, I can't do this. I was like, I need a new name tag. And he was like, okay, cool, here you go.
Really?
Yeah. And then everybody that I worked with, we were super, super close. We had some friends of ours, John and Janelle. They're really good regulars that we had, and we were very close with them. We'd always go to their house to go swimming, and they'd come to the bar with us all the time. And like, it was just a very tight knit group of people, but it was also like party friends. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But there is two girls that I do still talk to, Andrea and Chelsea. Andrea lives in Detroit, and then Chelsea lives in South Carolina, so I don't see her or talk to her as much as I would like, but I do see Andrea quite frequently. Mm-hmm. And her boyfriend actually works at my job as a doorman.
Oh, nice.
But
what other things have you noticed that uninformed people should know?
My favorite thing is there's no such thing as passing, because what does a fucking woman look like and what does a man look like?
Wait, passing?
So passing means that you like look like the sex that you, or the gender that you identify with. So I pass as a man.
Okay.
And I don't even like saying it, but other people don't pass as well as me to other people. I could give a fuck less what you look like, how you dress, how you act. Mm-hmm. If you tell me you're a man, you're a man. If you tell me you're a woman, you're a woman. If you tell me you're non-binary, I will respect you in however you present. So I just like, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. How do you feel about the media and the way that transgender is being portrayed, specifically in sport?
That's annoying.
Yeah. So there was a swimmer who identified as a woman and blew everybody out of the water. There's been a weightlifter that has came in, smoked everybody. And then you have guys that will literally make it a joke. And there's been a couple fighters that have said, I identify as a woman so they can step in and wrestle a woman. And then they come out, they win, they're like, oh yeah, oh no, I identify as a man.
That's just,
How do you...
that's fucked up.
Yeah, no, it
gross.
is fucked up, but it does happen. And how do you feel about transgender people being in sport? What is your kind of viewpoint on it?
Why would you seclude somebody? There are different, you are a weightlifter. I cannot lift as much weight as you. We are different. We are two very different people.
Right.
And it's not because I used to be a woman or that I am a man now. I'm smaller than you. You know what I mean? There are all of these different variables. And that goes back to the hormone replacement therapy, because it's a replacement. It's not an uppage or an advancement or anything like that.
Right.
It's purely replacement. So I don't know if you read, I actually just saw this the other day. It was a trans swimmer, and they said, I may not win as much as I used to, but I've never been happier.
That's a good place to be. It's a really good place to be.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think it's just a bunch of bullshit. And I think people take sports way too seriously.
Yeah. No.
Way too seriously.
Yeah, definitely. Especially in this country.
Yes. It's very dominated by sports and celebrities and all of these things.
Yes. So there's a couple other things. One of the big things that I didn't know if I was going to bring up, but I really want to know your take on it, is the youth in hormone replacement. So there's been cases of 12, 13-year-olds starting hormone replacement, but there's also a large percentage of people that want that reversed once they're older.
Choices.
How do you look at that as you want to be a father?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say 5 years from now, you have a family and your 4-year-old walks up to you and says that, I don't identify as, whatever gender they come out as. What's your viewpoint on hormone therapy as far as an age?
I think that blockers are appropriate. Puberty blockers, hormone blockers.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that you need to be starting a child out on hormones, but a puberty blocker, absolutely, because that's going to suppress a lot of the characteristics that you don't want. So for me, if I would have been on puberty blockers as a child, my breasts would not have developed the way that they did. My hips, things like that. It puts a hold to those things that develop during puberty.
Yeah.
So you can get through it, and then at an older age, start hormones when it's safer for your body, because when you're young, it's very important for your body to be healthy. I mean, it's important for your body to be healthy regardless.
Yeah.
But
what about the large percentage that want it reversed? Because if you have a hormone blocker, it can prevent you from maturing in certain ways, especially if you want to reverse. For me, it's hard to have a viewpoint on it, because it's am I for or against abortion? My viewpoint is I'm a guy. I don't have a standpoint. It's not my body. I have, I just don't want to get into it. And so, but I do feel like you should have to go through some sort of therapy
For sure.
and have, some years of experience under you before you do that. And so 18, 21, I kind of feel like that's where you should kind of get into it. Or is there, that's also just my standpoint. Is there something that you feel like would be against holding off and waiting to do it till you're older?
Your life, because it is life or death for some people. for some people, they're either going to say like, I'm going to transition or I'm going to kill myself. So, and personally, I would much rather put my child on hormone blockers or let them transition at a younger age than have to deal with a dead child.
Within your community, have you seen that a lot? Those suicides.
Actually, do you remember when we were at Ferris, that gay kid that tied his handlebars or taped his hands to his bicycle and drove out onto Perry Street and killed himself because he got hit by a car?
I remember hearing something. I don't remember the details. Like, I just remember somebody going out and getting smashed by a car. I didn't know about the handlebar thing or whatever.
Yeah. So I don't personally know anybody who has committed suicide, thankfully, but it is very prevalent. Like, the suicide rates in the LGBT community are very high.
Have you been close?
Yes, I have attempted.
What's that headspace like?
Horrible.
Is that just the dark space?
It's the dark space where, like, you're just done. You're over it. You're like, for me, my body was just like, it's time to die.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? I had just had it. And that was really heavy in my drinking and my drug use. And that definitely played a part in it.
So what did you decide to do about it?
After I had my attempt and I got out of it alive, I just like realized that like I don't want to die. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I had already come so far and I have so much further to go. So like, why? And that was when I started taking my mental health more serious, because I've always had mental health issues, and then the drugs and alcohol didn't help. And then when I finally moved to Detroit, I got a proper diagnosis. So that was nice.
It does seem like in a lot of the research that I was seeing, and we've even had this conversation about SSRIs and like other medications that are pretty prevalent within the LGBTQ plus community. Do you feel like those can be used as a crutch or needed, or kind of like, what's your stance on like, because it does seem like, I think the percentage was like 82% or something.
Do you not understand what it's like to be an LGBT?
I have no idea what that's like. That's why we're having this conversation.
So that's it. You don't know what those people
Yeah,
go through
I have
every day.
no fucking clue.
They may not be as fortunate as me. They may have a very stressed relationship with their parents. They may not have any friends. They may not be happy with who they are. Like, there's so many varying factors as to why someone in the LGBT community would need to be on antidepressants or any form of mental health medication.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking hard. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Especially like, I grew up in a small town. I used to get bullied for being a lesbian. They called me Dyke Spike all the time. Like, that's hard to go through. And a lot of gay people and LGBT people go through that because they get bullied and they get torn down on and things like that. So like, that is going to take a huge toll on your mental health.
How do you get out of that? Like, because for me, I was beaten as a kid almost daily. Like, we had like this big 6 foot tall wooden fence and you can drive by the house, it's still there. And it was so nobody could see what was going on. You know, like I was forced to fight. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and all I see is like this dark shadow. And then my mind just goes blank because I know what time it is, you know, like about to get fucked up. And so for me to be able to drop that stuff has been a very hard learning experience.
I don't think you have to drop it. I think you just have to learn how to deal with it, because you're never going to drop it. You're always going to think about it. It's always going to be there. So you need to learn how to function with that trauma.
So how did you learn to function with your trauma?
I got sober. Number one, that was the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I got on the proper medication. That was another thing. And then just the stabilization of everything after being an addict really helped. Because I had a job, I had a vehicle, I had money coming in. I wasn't spending all my money on drugs and alcohol. I was paying my bills. And it was just like seeing myself get out of that dark space gave me more encouragement to keep going.
Okay. So let's talk about addiction and a couple things, and then we can get you out of here. I've gone to rehab. I've been through a rough addiction. And the biggest thing that I had, so I did NA. And NA it's very hard for me to where somebody's saying you can't do this because it's a drug, as they're drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes.
Right.
Like two of the most known addictive drugs in the world. I'm like, bro, I have cancer. I'm going through chemo. Me smoking a joint, like it helps me. Nope, that's, you can't do that. And so, but you stand up or you sit in the table and you say, hi, my name's Rob. I'm an addict. They want you to identify as an addict. And with the identification comes a rule set, things that you can do and things that you can't do. And it's almost like this cult of people to where it's like, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. This is how it is because you're an addict for life. Do you feel like the whole identity of an addict is as real as the identity of your gender? Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I'm going to say yes and no. Because I think being an addict is a huge part of your life because it changes your life forever.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that you can't do anymore. Like, I literally cannot drink alcohol ever again in my life. Ever.
Have you tried since you gotten sober?
No, I refuse.
Same, yeah. I can't even do I've seen you drink
the Bud Zeros.
Yeah.
I love those.
Yeah, I can't even do that. Like, the smell of it is like, sometimes I'll smell alcohol and I'll just be like, nope. Like, it makes me want to like vomit.
Sometimes when I'm bartending, I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah, Jim Beam is one of the worst for me, or Jaeger if I smell it. It's just like,
Rumplemints is the one that gets me.
oh,
It's because I love Rumplemints. It was my favorite.
Oh.
So like, I'll smell it and I'll be like, I kind of start salivating a little bit, but then I'm like, no.
yeah.
No.
So you would say that you identify as an addict?
For sure.
All right.
Because I have gone through that. I'm not ashamed of it.
Right. It just seems like a lot of LGBTQ plus people that I've met, they have also gone through the drug and alcohol problem.
Goes back to
It's
all the same shit that I said about being on antidepressants. It's our
yeah.
lives and what
It
goes
just
to
seems like
self-medicating.
everything just goes right back to childhood trauma, and it's hard to bring up all trauma in just like a hour and a half conversation or whatever this is. But you've handled the trauma very well. You've been able to get out of it and kind of create this amazing life where you have support, not only at your job, but your family, your friends. You have all of this amazing support. What do you do moving forward? What's next for you? Because it seems like you've accomplished the biggest life goals of figuring out who you are and what you're doing. What's next?
What's next is getting my finances in order from being a crackhead, because that takes a toll on your bank account.
Yeah, credit takes a hit.
Credit takes a big hit.
Yeah.
So one of my goals this year is to really work on my credit score. That's one of my big goals. And then I really love what I do at my job. So I want to keep excelling at that and really growing what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
With like the drag shows and the queer dance parties and things like that. Like, I love every event that we throw. They're so much fun.
Yeah.
But I just want to keep being a better person. I think there's always room for growth, and I just want to keep getting better. Like, two people that I work with, Tolly and Claire, I don't think you met either one of them.
Okay.
They're the nicest, sweetest, most like, especially Claire, like Tolly is too, but like emotionally intelligent. Like, she can talk anybody off of a ledge. She can I just aspire to be more like them, because they're just so cool and they figure everything out, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I just I'm just striving to be a better person and to learn from the people around me.
Do you feel like the biggest speed bumps in your life are behind you?
Yes, I do.
It's an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
What speed bumps are ahead that you're looking forward to tackle?
Buying a house.
Okay.
That's a big speed bump.
That's a big speed bump.
Because I had never, like, I don't think I could do it, this year, but in the next year or two, or, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that could be something that is doable for me. I'm getting a new vehicle tomorrow. So that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for me to build up my credit and do all of that fun shit with. But I just want to be a good person. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
Be good to everybody.
Well, I know from the time that I've gotten to know you again and being at your bar, meeting your sister, I can definitely tell you that you've succeeded in that already. You are a very good person. It does seem like you're trying to do what I'm trying to do as far as like building a personality. And so we'll kind of end on this because I know we've gone a little bit longer than we thought about. But what I'm doing is trying to take traits from friends, people that I respect, look up to, see what they're doing and match it to what I would do in certain situations and trying to steal personality traits to copy that. Because my natural traits, my natural responses are not good. Like I will walk through a grocery store and if there's an old woman in my way, naturally I want to just like smush her, just like move her out of the way, get the fuck out of the way, lady. But I know I can't do that.
Right.
So I try to look at what other people are doing. It sounds like that's kind of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And who do you look for mentorship, for personality traits? Who do you look up to be able to cultivate this new personality?
Claire and Tully. For sure. They're like hands down two of the best people I've ever met.
Okay.
Claire has been there for me like through a breakup, through my marriage ending. She was there for me for top surgery. She came over and like helped me shower when I couldn't shower by myself. She always is just very encouraging and very empowering and helpful and just like a very good human being. Mm-hmm. And I like strive to be like her and to be like Tully because he is the same. He's a very good human being. He cares about everybody that he works with and everybody in his life. And he takes very good care of us. And it's just like you aspire to treat people the way that they treat people.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that it's definitely been a breath of fresh air to have created the show and had some positivity brought to it. I started the show in this room like a year and a half ago when I could barely walk. I was like going through a bunch of medical stuff and to now to kind of have a full circle to be with you in here. It's been a pleasure. And I'm not just saying that because there's cameras and lights going off. Who gives a shit? It's a fucking chaotic mess. But from the bottom of my heart, thank you. This has been amazing. What would you like people to know? Last final words. If they meet a trans person at work, in public, wherever, how would you say for them to come up and introduce themselves and have a conversation and get started?
Hey, I'm Derek.